Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Awkward Season 4, Episode 16, Hashtag Drama. And that was the perfect title for this episode because this episode involved a lot of hashtags and a lot of drama, definitely. But one of the things I like this episode did was it was very light-hearted, and I think that's when Awkward's really at its best. I like when Awkward is not afraid to go into dramatic territory, but this show, we have to keep in mind, is a dramedy, okay? It's a dramedy. It's most times going to be a fun show, and this episode was a lot of fun, definitely. I really enjoyed it because of that, and just everything about it was a lot of fun. I definitely really enjoyed it. But the ending, next week's episode, is definitely going to be amazing because of the way this episode ended. So let's just get to it. So Jenna is narrating, of course, that she's very pleased that she let Owen down easy and made up with Matty after the bonfire, and she very much thinks her slate is clear. However, of course, there's that whole she didn't tell Tamara about Owen things, so she still has that to deal with. Plus, the dude database is still going around. So she hands Tamara coffee, and she asks if she's gone Amish, since she hasn't answered her calls. I gotta say, Tamara in this episode was absolutely hilarious. Tamara had some of the funniest lines I think she's had in a long time. Especially this season, Tamara has not been as funny as she usually is. But this particular episode, she was hilarious, and I really love that. Definitely, I like that we're getting the old Tamara back. I like that we're seeing more of funny Tamara, versus sort of, I wouldn't say bitchy Tamara, but I have not been loving her character this season. She's still my favorite character on this show, by far, but I haven't been loving her character. But this episode, I loved her character again, definitely. So I thought she was just hilarious. So Tamara says the dude database has basically gone viral, and there are hashtags all about the guys are pouring in, and we see that there's drama all over the school quad. For example, Jake has been he's been labeled a puppy dog, and the gay guys are wondering why the straight guys are being so sensitive since gay bar judgment is so harsh. And Matty comes up and is harassed by girls who want to check him out, basically. He was hashtagged as Fab Abs, which is just, oh my god, that's hilarious. Two girls roll by, and they think the database came from some freshmen. Basically, that makes sense, because, I will be honest, there were so many times freshman year last year where I saw all these, freshman girls create Twitter accounts based on seniors, and, this is just a thing that freshmen do, freshmen versus seniors, that's always a thing, and, that definitely makes sense that a freshman would do it, so, at this point, they're pretty much safe, no one really suspects Jenna and Tamara, so Valerie ends up calling Jenna to the office. Val ends up calling Jenna to the office, basically. And I love Tamara's line where she's like, hey, no one knows it was us. And then, Val's like, Jenna, come to the office with me. And she's like, oh, well, no one knows it was me. I thought that was really funny. So Jenna's worried that Val knows about the student database, and she asks her about the database and wonders if any faculty is involved, because she's thinking that maybe a faculty member might have made this list. And the 2.5-inch kid comes in and says he needs guidance, and Jenna goes, and Maddie tells Jake that the hashtag thing, so basically, Jenna's free at this point, she's clear, she knows that, she has nothing to worry about at this point, and Maddie tells Jake that the hashtag thing sucks, and says Matty has it good because he's highly rated, which is true, Matty's, ranking is at least good. It's at least a good ranking, while Jake is a lot more, he doesn't have much confidence as Matty, he's more of a softie, and that's one of the things I've always liked about Jake's character, the difference between Matty and Jake. That's always something I've loved that the show does, and when they show the difference between them, they show it perfectly, and I love that they show that even though they do have so many differences, they are still really good friends, and that's something I'm always going to love about Awkward in general. So, basically, Gabby then asks Matty how many of these girls he actually took on a date, and he asks to take her to a mini golf and says she'll try to sink a hole in one, but he says it's a double date. So he then goes to Sadie, and even Sadie is less than encouraging. He's just like, no way am I doing this to you. I love seeing Sadie's and Matty's friendship. It's always so cute when we see it. Like, they have by far the best friendship on this show. I always love watching their friendship scenes. They're just so, so funny. She has to go along, and she says she has to pay for she and Sergio both, because now her and Sergio, I don't know if they're a couple, but they're in the process, definitely, of being a couple. Also, what happens is that, she says to Matty he thinks that the only reason he's going after Gabby is to prove to her that he is not, because he's not the kind of guy that will go after every single girl. She thinks it's very pathetic that he's doing this, and I kind of agree with Sadie there. It is kind of pathetic what Matty is doing. I mean, he's not really interested in Gabby. He said it to Jenna before. He's not interested in Gabby. He's interested in getting his mojo back, basically. So Lissa then approaches Theo and Cole to ask for advice, and she says she wants to be in heaven with her family, but says now her dad can't go. And, Lissa, of course, she's still extremely dumb. She thinks there's a gay heaven and a bi heaven. Like, she tells her she's got bad info and says he's going to gay heaven, which is more like a party. Basically, they lie to her about everything. And what I love about their characters is that they're so funny, but they're doing really bad things, definitely. They're doing really evil things. They're basically completely messing with her, and especially Lissa. I mean, Lissa will believe pretty much anything, so it doesn't surprise me that they said this to Lissa, because, again, she pretty much would believe anything. You could tell her that the sky is falling, she'd believe it. You could tell her that the sky was green, and she'd believe it. You could tell her the sky is not blue. You could tell her anything that is completely obvious, and she'd believe it. That's how oblivious Lissa is. So basically, they tell her that she's got bad info and says, her dad's going to gay heaven, which is more like a party, while Alyssa will be in straight heaven. And she says there are too many heavens to keep straight, and she goes off. And they're talking about basically how, they fooled her into it, and it was so funny to watch that. I really am loving these two characters. I love that they're showing them more, and they're so funny. So Jenna's phone is ringing off the hook, and, she got all these text messages and everything, and Owen comes up, and he thanks her for putting him on the dude database, and he kisses her cheek and leaves, because he knows that she and Tamara are involved with it. And basically, Tamara asks if they're in the friend zone, and because, she sees that happening, and she tells her that she hooked up with Owen once at New Year's, and then basically Tamara has feelings for Owen, as we know. Now, she was about to tell Jenna that she had, hooked up with Owen, but, Jenna didn't listen to her first. But she tells her that she had hooked up with Owen at New Year's Eve, and then once again, and says it was weird because she took, his virginity, of course, but then Tamara tells her she's the one who hashtag Owen after they hooked up, and, Tamara's obviously very upset, which I think Tamara personally does have a reason to be. I mean, here's the thing with Jenna. She's kind of, being kind of self-centered at this point. Jenna's in no way a self-centered person, but at this point, I think she is kind of being self-centered in the sense that she's kind of making it so she's a better, girl and a better girlfriend, things like that, than Tamara is. I definitely like seeing that a lot. I like this drama between the two of them. I like when there's friendship drama between the two of them, but what I do like is that they always resolve it, and I definitely really enjoy it. They're not, gonna dwell on it, and I like how this was handled. This wasn't handled in a too dramatic way. It was handled very realistically, definitely. If this were to happen, this is probably how it would have been handled. So basically, she's really upset with Jenna at this point, so Jenna falls and tells her this is not a walkaway moment, then does it again, and Jenna says she didn't know that she liked him. They're in class, basically, and they're very upset. And Tamara says she didn't know she liked him. And Jenna says he's not her type, but Tamara gets mad and says he's good enough for her, but not, he's good enough for her, but not, her. So he's he's outraged at this, and Jenna goes, she's outraged, and Jenna goes to confront him about hooking up with Tamara. Because basically we find out that he hooked up with Tamara, and he reminds her that she told him to, which she did say this, and I agree that with what Owen is saying here. By the way, Owen is really an awesome guy, I gotta say, definitely in this show. I'm glad they brought him on, because I definitely like his character. He's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, think about it. He's a sophomore who basically is just getting these two seniors fighting over him. That is like paradise. I mean, if that were to happen to me, I would be exactly how Owen would be reacting. So, happy this is going on, and just, I would completely react probably the same way. So, I really like Owen's character because of that. He's a very fun character, and I hope they keep him around because I definitely really like him. I really liked Luke, but the thing I like about Owen is that Owen's a lot more funnier, wackier guy, and I definitely really enjoy that about his character. So, he reminds her that she told him to go after someone awesome, and she's awesome, and she tells him to stay away from Tamara, and because basically he thinks that the only reason, and I do not agree with Jenna with this, basically she thinks that the only reason he's going after Tamara is because he's trying to make Jenna jealous, which is complete bullshit. I mean, we clearly saw he has feelings for Tamara. He has feelings for both of them, obviously. He has feelings for both of them. I could talk about a dozen senior girls, definitely. Just like Owen. I could talk about a dozen senior girls that personally think are attractive. There are dozens of them. So, he doesn't only like Jenna, and she doesn't really realize that. He doesn't realize that he likes both of them, and he can like both of them if he wants to. I mean, he's a sophomore. It's really just his preference. So, Jenna then, is very upset about this. So then we see that Val is fire hosing the rowdy crowds. They're very upset about the dude database. And it's very funny to see that. I love seeing Val trying to keep things under control. It's hilarious to watch, definitely. And Lissa rants to Sadie about all the heavens. And Sadie basically tells her, she has no idea what she's talking about. She says, look, you have no idea what you're talking about. And Sadie says something that I definitely really like. She tells her, look, if you tell anyone about this, I'm going to gouge your eyes out. And she tells her that she believes in love. She believes in love, and basically love is love. And I definitely like that with that Sadie said that. And she then gets a text from Sergio that his car died and says she's going to take her booze bag stepmom's car to, Aunt Allie's car to pick him up. And Aunt Allie reminds her she's right there, and Sadie says she knows. And basically, they're going to go on their little date. So Jenna decides to go to Lacey for advice on the whole Tamara issue, and Lacey totally gets why Tamara is mad. I completely agree with Lacey. She pretty much gave Tamara her leftovers, and, she says she should have told Tamara just enough of the truth so that she can avoid being hurt. I mean, she told Tamara way too much. Yes, she could just told Tamara, hey, we hooked up. She didn't have to tell Tamara that they had sex and that she took his virginity and all that. She basically is making it seem like it was a victory for her, but for Tamara, think about it from Tamara's point of view. Tamara's obviously very upset about this, and I honestly really felt bad for Tamara. Now, Jenna wasn't trying to be bitchy. I don't think Jenna realized really that she was being basically a bitch at this point. She really was. Jenna's not usually a bitch, and she's in no way a bitch, but at this point she was kind of being very bitchy, and she came across that way, in my opinion, definitely. Even though she wasn't trying to be, she just came across as very bitchy, and I definitely agree with what Lacey said. A lot of times Lacey is on Jenna's side, but at this point she's telling Jenna, look, you're in the wrong here. It's not Tamara that's in the wrong. You are in the wrong because you totally told Tamara way too much, and you didn't need to tell her all that she needs to know, and I'm glad that Lacey said that Jenna was wrong because she really was. So, Sadie, Sergio, Gabby, and Matty, they're then at mini golf, and it's getting pretty crazy competitive, and that was definitely really funny to watch. So Jake then shows up to see his MILF, as we're going to call her, Natalie, and he's dressed up in plumber gear, trying to be very, he's basically trying to be, like, sexual towards her, trying to make her think that he's sexy, basically, and she tells him to quit it, but he says he wants to be a bad boy. But the thing is, he's not good at it at all. He is not good at being a bad boy at all. Jake is in no way a bad boy, and he's never going to be. I mean, it really made me think back to season 2 when Jenna had that episode where what if Jake was like a bad boy, and it really would be hilarious to watch. I mean, the reason that episode was so funny was because seeing Jake be a bad boy was so different than anything we've ever seen, and just think of Jake as a bad boy, it honestly is hilarious because he's not good at it at all, and, he's not a good he would never be a bad boy. I could never see Jake being that way. He's the complete opposite of a bad boy. He's anything but that, and basically, she tells him that he is who he is, and he asks again if she wants him to catch her pipes before he ditches the costume, and she decides, what, they'll have sex, and they end up having sex, basically, and, I was happy that she said that to him, because it's true, he needed to hear that advice, definitely. So, Gabby is killing at the mini golf and coaches Matty, and Sergio's up next, and Sadie says if he misses, she'll rip off his junk, and he says that only hurts her. And Maddie's, sucks at mini golf and asks Gabby if he sinks the putt, and if she'll kiss him. And she asks him if a hookup is on the line. He suddenly steps up his game. She says he's been playing her and walks out. Basically, I thought that was, really funny, definitely. He's basically, and basically she's kind of upset about this, definitely. Like, he's been playing her, and, basically, Jenna then shows up to apologize to Tamara, and she starts babbling. Basically. And, I agree with Tamara says. When she doesn't answer her phone, she doesn't want to talk to Jenna. When, she doesn't want to talk to her. And basically, Owen is there behind her and hears all this. And Owen's over at Tamara's. This is a very funny scene. This could be a very dramatic scene, but I like that they portrayed it in a funny way, because just the way it was done. Especially because the thing about what this is over a dude database. it's not that serious of an issue, and I like that Awkward is not taking itself too seriously this season, because it definitely is actually helping out the show. A lot of times I'd be upset if a show doesn't take itself too seriously. A show like Awkward, though, I'm fine with, because Awkward is, again, about life. It's about life. It's about the things we go through in high school. So, if they can portray it however they want to, and this would definitely be how it was portrayed in school. So Tamara tells Jenna it's not about Owen, and Owen's like, it's not. So I thought that was really funny. But about the two of them, Jenna thinks she's basically hotter than her, which she kind of does. She's basically making it seem like that. She kicks her out so she and Owen can have their juice he had gone to get, basically. They basically were there to talk. She shuts the door firmly in Jenna's face, and she's like, "Okay, bye." I thought that was hilarious the way she said that. And she shuts the door in her face, and basically we got a lot of tension going on between them. Now, I thought they were going to take this into another episode. I thought they were not going to resolve this for a little while, and this was probably going to be like our season plot. But we'll get to what happens there in a second. Sergio and Sadie, they then drop off Matty and Gabby after they heckle him, and Matty says they're too competitive, and Gabby says that's what's got her a full ride to Stanford. And she says he's trying way too hard to convince her that he's a good guy, and I completely agree what she's saying, He's basically trying to be, like, the best guy there is. And one of the things I love about this episode is Maddie's trying to convince everyone he's a good guy, while Jake's trying to convince everyone he's a bad boy, which I think is definitely really funny. So he tells her to get to know him instead of believing the rumors and stupid hashtags. She steps in and kisses him on the cheek, and they're basically going to start their relationship together, which I'm definitely very happy about, because I like Gabby. I like her as a character. I think she's definitely a good character. She's making Maddie realize that all that stuff, like popularity, proving to people he's a good guy, it doesn't really matter. She likes him, and if he likes her, go for it. I think it's good that they're, together. Now, yes, I do want Jenna and Maddie back together by the end of the season at least, or at least by the end of the show, because we know there's one more season. So I want them together at least by then, but for right now, I like Matty and Gabby together, and it's fine with them because, she's a senior, he's a senior, they can continue dating, like, I like seeing them together, definitely, and she's not like Amber at all, she's not bitchy or anything, so I definitely like that about Gabby's character a lot, and I'm very happy they've been showing her characters. I definitely have been enjoying her. So then Jake slams down by Jenna, and he's basically playing bad boy at this point. And, she's telling him, look, you're horrible at it. She tells him that he's not good, and Val breaks in on the speaker, says to come down to find out how to stop being awful, and they show up, and she says she knows they hate themselves sometimes, and says she hates them too. She says she tells them to let it, and Sadie says probably the funniest line of the entire episode here. I thought what Sadie said was probably one of the funniest things she has ever said on this show. Like, so funny. She says, "So, I have a few things to say about you." She says it, like, very happily. And so, Val's all like, "Oh, that's great. You want to let it out." And Sadie basically says, "Look, you are a fake teacher, and you should be fired again or thrown in jail." And then Sadie's like, "Oh, I feel great." And of course, Sadie says, "You're welcome." And that's just classic Sadie, really. Dissing people. That's just what Sadie does, and I love that about her character. I thought that was just such a good diss. It's probably one of the best, quips Sadie has had on the show, and I think it's so funny. And I love that, definitely. I thought that was a great scene, and you can see that Val is hurt, but then they just move on from it, and she's like, okay, who's next? So I thought that was really funny, and again, I love the comedy that the show is adding. So Theo stands up and says he hates it that all these, as he calls it, basic bitches can't get their shit out without infantile bonding, and says they need to grow a pair. And Lissa says she hates it that God is an asshole, and the gay guys come to bond over it. And then we see that Kyle says he hates that gummy worms won't tell their secrets. Like, that guy's fucked up. We know this. And then Jake says he doesn't hate anything because he's a nice guy, and basically he's realizing, look, he's a nice guy, and, people like him, so why change anything? So I definitely really like that. So, as I said, I thought we were going to get this Jenna and Tamara, complication for, like, the rest of the season, but they actually solve it in this episode, because Tamara says she hates when her best friend lies to her, then throws her sloppy seconds, and Jenna says she hates that she thinks she could ever be second best, and Tamara says she's the relaxed cool that draws guys in. They hug it out, but Val says it's not working and says it's their fault, and says she's going to throw in the puberty video and pretend like this didn't ever happen. Oh my god, classic Val, love that. My only thing with Val is that what the fuck happened to that guy that, like, she was pursuing? Like, what happened to Will? I mean, he was supposed to be a teacher at the school and we didn't get any advancements with that plot. I guess it's fine because I mean, it's okay, but like, I don't know. I was fine with that. So basically they've made up, and I was definitely surprised they made up in this episode, and they basically are trying to add positive hashtags to the dude database. You know, they call Kyle an emo stud and they see how happy he is. And Tamara calls Owen over and he's scared. And Jenna said they're sorry for the drama, and he says he says he loves that he banged 2 senior girls in 2 weeks and he's a legend. I mean, that's hilarious because again, if that were to happen to me, I would probably react the same way. I think that's absolutely hilarious that he reacted that way, and just, he's such a great character. I love his character, definitely. So Jenna ends up deleting the data, she's about to basically delete the database, but Tamara says, look, you can't do that, and we find out by deleting the database, because she created it, it lets everyone know that she was the administrator of the account, because they get this thing that says deleted by Jenna Hamilton. So now everyone knows that she created the account, and it's not going to be good for Jenna. So obviously the next episode is going to be very intense. I'm definitely really looking forward to it. But again, one of the things I do like about this season is that they're not taking themselves too seriously. They're making it just a fun show, and I definitely really enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. What's going to happen now that everyone knows that Jenna was a part of the Dude database? What do you think is going to happen with Owen? Again, I love his character personally. I think he's really, really funny. Definitely, I really like that. Matty and Gabby, I think they are going to start a relationship now, and I'm happy they are starting a relationship. As far as Lissa goes, Lissa's just so clueless, and she has no idea what's going on. I think that whole plot's hilarious. Sadie and Sergio, I think they're dating now. I'm pretty sure they are, and I like that they're together because I think they're definitely very good together. And I hope we get more advancement with their plot. Also, Jake, did you like Jake's plot? I like that Jake actually had more to do, because Jake has not had a lot to do this season, really. And I really like that, he's having more to do, and I definitely like that, especially this episode, he had a lot more to do. So that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Arrow. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.